Space weather is conditions in space which can affect the spacecraft, which can affect GPS navigation, which can affect the power transmission. Sometimes it can be very strong disturbances like geomagnetic storms, and they can affect our human technologies. The sun is the source of disturbances of space weather around the Earth. The surface is around 6,000, and corona is around 1 million. And on Earth, maybe the only comparison I could think about is some nuclear explosions.
It's quite important for solar scientists around the world to have, let's say, a consistent and a good picture of the corona of the sun.
To look at all the fine-scale structures and also what we call coronal mass ejections, which are an explosion of plasma from the sun.
They could go through cameras, they could go through satellites, really burning all the links, like electrically. Traffic lights would stop working.
A major one happened 100 years ago or so. And if we learn how to predict those, we can safeguard in the future.
On Proba 3, we want to use formation flying to observe the corona of the sun, mimicking the principle of a total solar eclipse, of course at a smaller scale.
This will allow scientists to finally understand what these outbursts are caused by and how they work.
Well, hello everyone. This is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and the Explore Alliance, and we are in Overland Park, Kansas, at the 2024 Astronomical League Conference. Kent Martz is now sitting with Jen Winter from Daystar, and Jen, I guess that you gave a talk or are about to give a talk here.
Yeah, hi Scott. Yeah, indeed. Jen just got through doing a very entertaining talk about eclipses, and I didn't hear the first part of it. I don't know if you talked about Daystar or not, but talk about Daystar just a little bit, and then talk, give people a little bit of advice on upcoming eclipses, if you would.
So Daystar Filters is a solar filter manufacturing company. So for example, if you own a telescope, and I figure a few people own their own telescope, our filter is for putting onto your telescope. Most of the work that we do, 9 times out of 10, is hydrogen alpha, and that allows you to see that boiling prominences and explosion solar flares and things on the sun that you sometimes see on TV or in some of those pictures. But because of the eclipse, we added production in-house of solar eclipse glasses with the eclipse film, which is a white light type of filter. And we did millions and millions of pairs of glasses that way. Just our company exploded with the number of employees. And now it's passed. We had our eclipse. It was so fun. Everybody loved it. And now we're back to our mainstay, which is to make for researchers, for universities, for amateurs astronomers. I'd say most of our actual volume goes for the amateur astronomer.
And it's specialized filters, so you can safely view the sun in
Correct.
all sorts of different wavelengths of light, correct?
We primarily focus on hydrogen alpha, but then there's a calcium that's used. And with calcium filter, yes, it's pretty pictures, but it also demonstrates, for research purposes, it's to see deeper into the chromosphere. They can see things that are going to come ahead of what's on the top layer in hydrogen alpha. You can see earlier as it's deeper in the calcium filters. And so we make a calcium K line and we make a calcium H line filter. And, we've recently added sodium filters. Sodium filters, actually, those are used in research to see flare footprints before a flare occurs.
That's cool.
And then we added recently a magnesium filter. those allow you to see the magnetic behavior of the sun.
Wow.
Because magnesium is so magnetic.
Yeah, and the eclipse is over, but the sun is still there.
It's
And-
there every single day.
And
No.
it's half the day.
Yeah.
It's like the night is
If it
half
wasn't there,
the day.
we'd be-
We'd toast,
Yeah.
or no, we'd be frozen.
Yeah.
Maybe toast and then frozen.
The funnest part is we don't realize that it's a giant physics experiment right next door.
That's,
Now, we take these
Yeah.
telescopes to resolve teeny tiny little effects and phenomena that are millions and millions of miles away. But meantime,
or light years away.
light years,
Yeah, light years away.
yeah,
But yet we can look at the sun 93 million miles away,
it's right next door.
8 minutes,
Right.
real time in 8 minutes.
Right.
And there's so much going on right now because we're going up to solar maximum. There's so much more to look at, like the dearth we had there for what, 3 years with no sunspots. It was, and there's still things to look at even with no sunspots, but right now is a great time to get into solar photography or solar observing if you want to, because solar maximum, the sun goes through an 11-year cycle. And right now we're coming up to the maximum where it's really active. Lots of sunspots,
Gonna-
lots of things.
Have a lot of research that happens to look at those sunspot cycles because they vary. And they're about 7 years from beginning to end, but sometimes they're not exactly. They don't just go like clockwork. We had a very, very small sunspot minimum, and the last solar cycle was quite small. And now for some reason, we're in a very big cycle.
Yeah.
And so we've got, obviously, there's a lot more research that we have yet to do. And I was mentioning earlier, polarization. It's so hot right now. Most people don't realize that when light reflects, it changes polarity. So that's a new tool that they're using in solar physics to see if light is scattering, if it's bouncing off of things, and we're seeing reflected light.
Interesting. We want to think we know everything about everything, but we've literally not scratched the
Everything hasn't
surface.
been invented.
Exactly. Imagine
So
that.
there's still fun, new, exciting things, and really big change happens fast.
So that's a little bit about Daystar, and the website is
www.daystarfilters.com.
daystarfilters.com. And you can use your favorite search engine to find it if you can't remember the URL. So let's talk about, you also have been to a number of eclipses, led tours, organized tours. Talk about, there's some upcoming eclipses that people are interested in now. There's a series coming up. What are some things people need to think about if they're thinking about going to one of these exotic locations?
So the first thing to think about, of course, is weather. Weather, climate, and they say climate is what you expect and weather is what you get.
In other words, clouds.
Clouds.
I mean, it's a
Clouds.
five-letter word.
Seeing 4 minutes of a cloudy sky is not favorable over seeing 30 seconds of the total eclipse. And so too often people will choose a location to go and watch that eclipse that's based on its duration, where it is on the center line, instead of looking at the odds that they actually get to witness the phenomenon. And witness the phenomenon means no clouds.
We went, Explore Scientific had an event, we called it the Crossroads of the Eclipse of Star Parties. It was down in Texas where the
two
paths crossed, and we had a fantastic annular eclipse where the moon is too close, too
Right.
far away from the Earth,
Size is
and-
smaller and doesn't block.
right?
the
Doesn't,
fire.
and you get a ring. And then totality, statistics show the farther south you went, the better off you were.
Right.
And so we went down there and we saw maybe 30 seconds.
Clouds.
We saw 30 seconds of totality, and the pictures I got make it look almost like an annular eclipse, because the corona was bright enough that it looks like an annular eclipse. And,
Was it red? Did you get to see those big red?
we could see some prominence with binoculars as well, and David Levy was with us, and he's like, that was my favorite eclipse. And it was his favorite eclipse because he had decided he wasn't going to see it. And then he got
And
to
then he
see
got to
30
see it.
30
Kind of
seconds
bummed
of it.
because I brought him to Antarctica.
Yeah.
He told me that was his favorite eclipse.
Well,
But I guess he's allowed to get new favorites.
he's David Levy, and
True.
David can change his mind at
Dobie
will.
can't change his mind.
And number two is your favorite eclipse is probably the last
The
one you
last
saw.
eclipse.
So we could have stayed in Explore Scientific is based in Arkansas. We could have stayed in Arkansas and had a bluebird day. Statistically, April in Arkansas is not a bluebird. It's a lot of clouds.
Right.
It's just the way it goes. But
It is.
you have to be
La Nina
flexible.
and El Nino.
But yeah, but go through the planning process, because you were talking about, I mean, you gave an hour-long talk about this basically. Very, very entertaining. She's a fabulous public speaker. She's a storyteller. and which makes it very entertaining.
Stories.
Oh, you have a lot of stories.
Really, I have to watch myself.
Well,
They'll
yeah.
run. They'll run.
No,
Don't get me started talking about Bolivia. Another 2 years.
I'm in the same boat. I can start telling stories and go for a long time. So tell us, the top 5 things you need to think about when you're gonna go to an eclipse.
Going to an eclipse in your own home country is a very different experience, in large part because you're familiar with the setting, you're comfortable just hopping in your own car and going anywhere within the United States because we're free to do that.
And we speak the same language.
And we speak the same language and we're largely populated. We have a good infrastructure. But when we leave the US and we're going to other places, it's really hard to wrap our brain around that Greenland has millions of square miles of nothing whatsoever, with nobody occupying that space. So assuming that you can get into a space in a foreign country, just renting a car is a big challenge. The language is a challenge. So
They don't have 7 million cars to rent for people going to the eclipse.
no, and if they were, everybody in Madrid would rent them.
Yes.
And everybody in the world who, by the way, just had a great experience and it just went all over the news. We had, 200 million people watch the eclipse?
Something like that. Mhm.
Someone can correct me on that. I'm really bad with really big numbers. But the popularity of the eclipse being so high and having such a small concentrated place to be, that means you need to really expect those crowds. And
Everywhere you go.
we saw that in Oregon in 2017. We saw that in everywhere everyone had traffic this time.
Mhm.
It was unprecedented, the amount of traffic to get into and out of. That's going to happen in a foreign country as well as it happens here. They have people too. And remember that they live there. And I don't want to say they were there first, but
It's their country.
don't trample all over someone's
Yeah.
country and
Respect the culture.
that because your job is important, because the eclipse is, it's an event for them as well.
So 1 is clouds, 2 is plan for
Infrastructure.
foreign travel and infrastructure problems, from water to food. If you don't speak the language, you told the story of she learned how to say, "Where's the bathroom?" in Turkish when she went to Turkey for an eclipse, but she was not prepared for complicated directions on where the bathroom was in Turkish. And so knowing the question in Spanish, "Donde es el baño?" is great until they tell you to go down the hall, take
You have to go up
3 lefts and go
past the door with the
with the red
Anything.
thing on it, right? And you don't know that. And so it's great to know the
There are
question.
nuances and cultures and methods. Everyone in England knows how to use the tube. And we're all joking about these posters everywhere that says mind the gap. That meanwhile, we can't buy a ticket
Mhm.
because they all just automatically know how to buy a ticket. And, we know how to use a drive-through.
So having a guide,
But
having a guide. So-
I think
which
that
means really-
probably the higher priority there, though, is to have a plan A, a plan B, plan C. I usually get down to H.
Yeah, you had plan H. I was going to ask you,
Yeah,
plan H was a real thing. So
you're going to get to at least D.
how about gear?
I would really recommend, top of my list is definitely binoculars. Absolutely. If you haven't honestly, seriously considered binoculars, then you probably need to look at it.
So
again.
both solar binoculars, so you can watch it up to the eclipse, and regular
They
binoculars,
take the filters off quickly.
one way or the other.
But everyone knows how to use binoculars. It's instinctive. You can point it. You don't need a mount, and you can wear them. They don't tip over. Nobody can hit the leg.
And
They're lightweight.
They don't weigh 38
They
pounds.
fit in your pocket.
They don't weigh 38 pounds, and you can carry them on an airplane.
You can carry them on. All the various, and the magnification power of those binoculars versus a big telescope. Let's look at the aperture. Do the math. I think you'll be surprised at what you can get out of a good pair of 20/50s.
Mhm.
I still think a good pair of 20/50s and a couple of
10 by 50s, 10 by 42s, they're all
Right.
going to work.
Right, they're all great.
right.
But it's what, and honestly, everybody where I'm from, I don't know where you're from, I'm in flyover country.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone in our,
Northwest Arkansas.
everyone has a pair of binoculars at the
Mhm.
front door. I was at B&H Photo and they said, well, what do you even use those for? And I said, we keep them at the front door to see who's at the end of the driveway.
yeah.
And the man says, what is your driveway, a quarter mile long?
And you
Yeah,
you said,
It is.
no more, half a mile. Yeah. Yeah.
So everyone has 20/50s
Yeah.
or 30/50s. or
Something,
2x50s.
Uh,
Actually, we were in Mongolia, came
Yeah.
with our binoculars, and one of the local native shepherds, he had yaks. He was a yak shepherd. And when we came in, he says, oh, wait, look. And he scurries off to his little yurt, and he comes out with one brass
a binocular.
binocular.
It had been a
Because a
binocular.
tourist came through years ago, cracked it in half, and as a gift to this man, gave him one half of his brass
So you had a
binoculars.
monocular.
Prized possession, had a pretty little scarf tied on it. Look, he was so proud.
Absolutely.
They were still useful for him.
Sure.
Great tool.
Sure.
Awesome. I really, really honestly cannot stress enough that the experience, optical aid, the first thing to try is those binoculars. And from my standpoint, I photographed every single eclipse. The Antarctica in 2003, I couldn't make my camera work. I forgot I set it into lock. Because I couldn't make my camera work, I was forced to watch the eclipse through the telescope. And that was my best interface experience with an eclipse ever, was to not photograph.
My piece of advice is you're talking about Fred Espenak takes videos and then ever watches videos.
No, Fred,
We all, Fred, other thing you're talking Fred Espenak, Fred, your significant other Fred. So takes videos. I take pictures and like go to concerts and record the songs I want to record, and I never listen to them again. Stop and just enjoy the eclipse. Make memories through your eyeballs. Don't make memories through the screen on your smartphone.
Right.
Make memories with your eyeballs.
Right.
And those are lasting memories.
There are tools that will allow you to set it and forget it.
Automate stuff.
Software. And so if you're going to think about that, make sure and practice it well in advance. Because trust me, customer service is not going to help you the day before the eclipse. You need to build the program, run the program, test the program, adjust the program, build it, test it,
like
over and over.
6 months at a time. You can't buy a telescope the week before an eclipse and
read
have
the manual on
and
the
have a
thing.
good experience. It won't happen, and you've got to plan ahead. So what's the last piece of advice?
Don't forget to look up.
Yeah. Okay.
No, actually, Fred Espenak has that on. He keeps a chart of the things he's supposed to do at the very different time. He has it all roped off, all the equipment, and take this and change the aperture. And on his instructions, there's a line item that says "look up."
Right.
Because he would forget. He gets so involved in this.
And it's over.
It's like going outside. You've been working at the office all day. You go outside and you suddenly realize that the weather is lovely. It's 78 degrees. It's breezy. The sun is out.
And you
like, where even am I? Or looking up and wait, the Milky Way's up.
That's why I was trying to use a smart telescope, and it just wouldn't. The clouds were too much. I couldn't get locked on. And if I finally said, I'm getting stressed.
Binoculars around your
I
neck,
did have
you would've
binoculars.
just
But that's what I
knew.
did. I wanted to take pictures of it, with the smart telescope. I finally said, you know what? This is making me stress out. I'm putting this up. I'm gonna go sit down beside my wife and watch the eclipse. I'll hold her hand.
Right.
And that's how I did it.
Right.
And that's how I'm gonna do it going forward.
Right.
Is low tech as much as possible and just enjoy the eclipse and the people around me and the friendships I create.
Right.
Right.
Right. And allow that. It's a very emotional thing. Most people don't realize
Yes.
the Benedictine order, Saint Benedict, you probably didn't know this. Saint Benedict happened to see an eclipse in Europe and was inspired that this was the hand of God trying to show him something. So Saint Benedict, who, by the way, created the Benedictine order, the largest, most influence in Europe at that time for hundreds of years, all over Europe, was inspired in that moment by an eclipse.
Amazing. It is an emotional experience. Annular eclipses, where there's a ring of fire around the moon, is a mental exercise. It's a very academic. It's cool.
It's
but
clinical. It's
but
clinical.
totality is an emotional, physical response when it
the brainstem, because things that you expect to be away and have been away. They talk about the development of a child, that they recognize the moon does things. And as a child, as a toddler, we understand the role of the sun and the moon in our lives at such a small age. It in many cases predates speech. So to have those things misbehave and do something, they're
come together.
together. It gets dark when it's not supposed to. The shadows are coming from odd places. It feels worrisome and luminous or ominous, and then have the sounds change and the temperatures change. It's such a physiological change to your person. Oops, goosebumps.
I know but it is. It's an addictive drug. I mean, for many people, eclipses are addictive drugs.
I'm favorite in Antarctica, and I really just completely geek out about this. Antarctica, the eclipse happened at local midnight, which means that the shadow came past the south pole of the Earth and nicked us on the other side.
Okay.
So we were standing facing south over the edge of the Earth, And again, it's local
Got a clip?
midnight, so the sun was moving towards the southernmost point, and the moon is in now retrograde, because remember, the moon was spinning
Right.
in a circle. So the moon is on the horizon, the sun is on the horizon, they're moving towards each other, and the moon overtook the sun like a bowling ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the corona erupted, we only saw the top half of it, and it had chromatic aberration in it. So
Wow.
the
The
further-
atmosphere, you had so much atmosphere.
and truthfully, when we mathematically looked at that situation, the bigger issue is that the sun had actually already set, because the atmospheric refraction was refracting the image of the sun up over the horizon to us.
Interesting.
And so
Amazing.
just seeing that, and then the shadow was so low that it came across like a winged bird, almost
Wow.
like a reaper that came and darkened the whole area. And we were in solar maximum, so we weren't sure, maybe we could have gotten aurora. We had one guy
Wow.
look for it. And the shadow bands, because the light was so low, were just
Rippling.
all over everywhere. But the sense of wrong, of what environment that you're in when it's so uniquely different, it affects, I'm telling you, it's like brainstem instinctive kind of a feeling.
Yeah. It's very visceral. It's very deep, and and people are ho-hum about it. And some people are ho-hum about it and stay after they see it. But other people, after they see an eclipse, are anything but ho-hum about it,
You're
because
right.
it affected them so much.
Right. I always like to compare it to, many people have seen Star Trek movies. There's a Star Trek movie with a nexus in it, where
Okay.
the arch villain, he was in the nexus, he got taken out, and he wants to get back in. And it's this rift that moves through space, and he wants in it so badly that he obliterates a planet. So he changes the gravity so the nexus will come and intersect the planet to come and suck him back up in it. And that's what it feels like. Once you've been in that eclipse path in totality, you will go almost anywhere and do almost anything to get back in that point and that moment
To see it again.
of surreal, it's almost like you're half awake and half asleep. It's like
It's inspiring, and your observations. How many eclipses have you seen?
about a dozen.
A dozen,
15,
so
15, I'd have to
you know,
count.
it's-
I always lose count.
it's like you become an evangelist for going to eclipses.
No, I just can't shut up.
We all tell stories. Like I said, she's a storyteller. I'm a storyteller. So we've got a conference getting ready to start. We have to eat lunch, and it's long after lunchtime. Scott, anything you got over there, Scott?
No, I'm getting excited about thinking about going to the next eclipse, actually. So
We're going to Spain. I don't know, maybe Reykjavik.
August.
yeah,
August
but
12th.
I do want to give a shout out to Jen Winter and her company Daystar. She has spent a lifetime chasing after eclipses. She has shown maybe thousands and thousands of people, maybe more than that, maybe millions of people have experienced the sun through her, the equipment that she makes. She took over a company that make hydrogen alpha solar filters and other types of solar filters, but she does it the traditional way. And it's very, very interesting to see someone that has the craft, the skill, the intelligence, and all the rest of it to make a tool that the average person can actually go and buy to go and experience the sun the way that Daystar filters can let you experience it. So,
And you can use it on your existing telescope.
yeah, I mean, it's so
Fine.
cool.
A lot of
you
people
know,
like
so-
their own telescope.
Yes, they do.
Right.
And I almost said they're made right here in Missouri. Well, we're not in Missouri, we're in Kansas, but they're made next door in Missouri.
Yeah, not far
east of
away.
Kansas City.
That's right.
We'll take them.
Yeah, east
Yeah.
of Kansas City. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so,
Flyover country.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's so cool. So cool.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Jen,
anyways.
thanks for coming on and talking about the sun and your company. And hold on.
So Scott, we'll have, getting some weird feedback all of a sudden. So
We are.
Scott, I'll have somebody here in maybe half an hour, 45 minutes to talk. Let's keep doing this all day, and we're going to be back off and on all day Friday and Saturday as well. So we'll see you later. Everybody
Okay.
stay tuned.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Jen.
Bye-bye.
very much. Thank you. Very good. Thank you very much.
Hi, Chuck.